got 5 of us, so we should probably get moving. Okay. Madam Clerk, are you ready?
I am ready, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the August 3rd meeting of the Community Homeless Advisory Board. We're going to jump right into this morning. First off, before we jump to the Pledge of Allegiance, I just wanted to thank all the members for your attendance. I know, and all of the staff in particular, and everybody pulling these meetings together. This is our 3rd meeting in the span of a month, and I appreciate everybody kind of making accommodations for us to have these multiple meetings during these sort of emergency COVID times to help our vulnerable population. So sincere thanks to start. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll go with Member Dare, if you'd like to lead us in the pledge.
Sure. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kind of hard to hear on that. All right, Madam Clerk, moving on to item 2, roll call.
Yes, Madam Chair, roll call for the Community Homelessness Advisory Board. Jardin.
Present.
Delgado.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Dare.
here.
Burke-Bigler. Here. Lucy. Absent at this time. Madam Chair, you do have a quorum of the Community Homelessness Advisory Board for August 3rd.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 3, public comment.
Madam Chair, as is the practices we have discussed for general public comment received prior to 4 p.m. the business day before this meeting, that is submitted in general public comment, of which we have none. We did receive some that came in after that 4 p.m. time that has been submitted to the board, and that will be included in your general closing comment at the end.
Thank you very much. And for the board and the public who may be tuning in information, again, accommodating for 3 meetings in a month, and I understand these were special circumstances, and getting some of these materials as late as this morning for us to, and the public to be able to review, makes it kind of difficult. So what I'm asking on the go forward is that for anybody that is going to be on our agenda and has any agenda materials, that those be submitted to the City of Reno clerk by the Monday prior to these meetings, so that they can be adequately inserted and distributed with the agenda in time for the public and for us to be able to review them. I know there will be special circumstances where maybe that won't always be the case, but I'm hopeful that we can do that in the future. In addition, the City of Reno will be posting these on our social media outlets to let everybody know well in advance of these meetings. And I would just ask, and we're going to try to get everything in one post, meaning the link to the meeting, the link to public comment, as well as all supportive materials in the agenda, so that then we as board members can then push that information out to our community members, particularly those that we know are of interest in watching these meetings. We had great attendance previously before COVID of interested and really important partners in our community. And I'm worried that some of that is falling off because people just don't know where to go find the information or how to participate. So just know that we'll be pushing those out on our social media the week before the meeting, and I ask that you guys help spread that as well. All right, Madam Clerk, we are on item 4. At this time, we have approval of the agenda. May I get a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is the approval of the minutes for July 6th. May I get a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I know it takes a second to reach up and hit that mute button. I know. Okay, at this time, Madam Clerk, did we have any public comment on item 4 or 5?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 6, this is the update on the Built for Zero initiative. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We have none.
Okay, we'll move on to presentation. And we did have some materials. I think those were distributed this morning by Cynthia. So if you're looking through your emails, I think Cynthia distributed them. And again, the link on the City of Reno social media post has it on there as well, as I understand. Thank you.
At this time, Madam Chair, we have Dana Searcy from Washoe County, who will be giving an update on the Built for Zero initiative. At this time, Dana, we will promote you to a panelist. And if you have a presentation, you may now share your screen and you'll be able to advance the slides on your end. If you do not have a presentation, then you are welcome to proceed with your verbal.
Dana, you are unmuted on our side, but if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Good morning.
Now
I
I can.
am working to share my screen here. And I do apologize. I am one of the offenders of not having information put together a week ahead of time. I think we had some fun with our transition from the county to the city. So we will make sure that all Built for Zero presentations are submitted with the agenda when it is posted. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, good morning and thank you for having me. Again, for the record, my name is Dana Searcy, Washoe County Special Projects Manager and your community lead for Built for Zero. After our CHAB presentation in July, many people reached out to express their hope and their desire to help, and the list continues to grow. As we mentioned at our last presentation, we will maintain a detailed list of all the individuals that are involved in our committees on our website when it launches next month. But in the meantime, we wanted to share with you a list that is included here, which includes 32 organizations that have pledged their support of Built for Zero and are either participating in the work or receiving updates on our progress. Since the beginning of July, we have established committees and commenced work in two major focus areas: the data systems and the by name list, and the outreach, coverage, and coordination. We have initiated the development of a community website in which we hope to share this with you in September. And in addition, we have drafted the regional efforts to address homelessness, and we are looking forward to sharing that with you during this presentation today. There is a lot of complex and interwoven work being done at many different levels, but we want to summarize that work that we are focusing on. It is definitely the largest lift and also the most important to establish a foundation for addressing homelessness in our community. Again, this work comes in two major focus areas. The first being our data. I feel like a broken record, but having an accurate by name list that identifies each individual in our community by name and need, is an essential piece of our work. We must also understand how our system will look when it's functioning efficiently, so that steps can get there can clearly identified. When we are also working on mapping out our system through a series of to help community
Dana, hang on.
work.
Dana, just
And we need to make sure that we're monitoring progress frequently through our community dashboard so we can adjust our approach as needed.
Dana, I think we might be having some internet issues. You're kind of, your voice is kind of going in and out.
Okay.
You sound a little better now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll continue to stop me if it's a problem. Our second focus area of our current work is the coordination of outreach efforts. We are working to establish the service area for each of these services, inventory the different types of outreach being conducted, and coordinate outreach between different groups to maximize efficiency and decrease redundant efforts. We're also developing a flow chart in this area of our system. Having a high quality by name list and coordinated outreach effort will increase our effectiveness in reducing the number of people experiencing homelessness. I will not go over this slide in detail, but I wanted to show the website, and with the help of the Washoe County Communications Division, we are on schedule to bring this back to you during our September update. Addressing homelessness includes many different categories of work. That work is interwoven, a complex system. Though each is unique, movement within one area of the system affects the whole. As I shared with you in July, one of the most significant pieces of feedback that I've received is that there are many different good ideas in our community and directions, but our problem is that we're all moving in a different direction. This feedback has stuck with me as it continues to prove true time and time again through our work. When we all take a step in our own direction, it is difficult for our system to continue to function efficiently. Built for Zero has a saying, single programs, no matter how successful, will not bring us to zero. Our community has a need for a regional approach to address homelessness, one that considers all needs, stakeholders, and partners. One that will serve as a regional collaboration tool that will facilitate conversations and align efforts and strategies. There's always another idea or program that we could take a look at, but in order to make meaningful community-wide progress, our best option is to thoughtfully and purposefully choose to focus and move in a single direction. And if we can do that, we will see progress in our efforts to reduce the number of people experiencing homelessness in our community. I would like to introduce you to a tool that I believe will help us move towards a plan to address homelessness at a regional level. You're looking at what we're calling the Regional Effort to Address Homelessness Matrix. And I realize that you cannot read this font. This document has been shared with everyone, and it'll be posted in the meeting materials for everyone's review. It will also be posted on our website, so the community and everyone else can watch our monthly updates. Speaking of your review, I would like to add this is truly a draft. It's meant to be a living document that's frequently updated with our partners. There are pieces missing. Mental health and other treatment programs are notably absent and will need to be added. And we can pretty this up a little bit more. But we felt that it was really important to get this in front of you and show you the work that we've been doing and have an opportunity to receive feedback. As mentioned before, it is more effective for us to move in a coordinated direction. I began with the intent of having a tracking document that would simply serve as a centralized place for a summary of work that is happening, the ideas we're evaluating, and who is working on each of those. As the information came together, it became clear that this document could be a tool to set priorities and be the beginnings of a regional plan to address homelessness. I would like to share with you a few examples from this matrix. First, let's look at an example from the Built for Zero project, specifically data systems and the by name list. The lead is the Built for Zero team. We talk about the team members involved and the current state, and we wanted to make sure that we share what success looks like how do we know when we get there. So where we are going says, our by name list includes each individual in our community experiencing homelessness from which housing placements can be made. Our efficient by name list allows for a clear understanding of gaps in our system. And we would share our status and any support that is needed from CHAP. This second example is one of an identified gap that we know needs to be addressed. Emergency shelter for couples. Current state, currently our community does not have an emergency shelter for adult couples without children. This is a barrier to our population being sheltered. Where we are going, our community has enough capacity to house couples needing emergency shelter. and the status. This has been identified as a need, but resources have not been identified. The intent here is to have a placeholder for needs or ideas that need to be researched until timing is right or resources become available. I would appreciate your true feedback when you have a chance to read through this. We really do want this to be a tool for everyone. We will also be working with each jurisdiction and the leads for updates. And we want to make sure everybody's on board with what this document says. Our next steps include continued work in those two initial focus areas, the by name list and the outreach coverage. As soon as we have the capacity, the next crucial item is our community inventory. I am hoping to have a complete inventory of all housing programs and the qualification criteria complete by October 1st. And as mentioned earlier, we are working towards the completion of our website and our community dashboard. The initial pull of data for that dashboard is scheduled for the middle of August. And if all goes well, we'll also be able to share these results with you when I return in September. In addition, we will work efforts to address homelessness matrix and provide monthly updates. As always, we need your support to be successful. I would like to take this time to be very honest with you all and share that the initial momentum for the Built for Zero project has begun to slow due to competing priorities and limited resources. We are all aware that there is a lot going on right now in our community and feeling the pressure and frustration because being stretched too thin leaves us all unable to make real progress. Now more than ever, the investment to address homelessness is crucial to our community's health and to those experiencing homelessness. Please continue to support staff in their Built for Zero efforts and support database decision-making to improve our community. And finally, we recommend that you use the regional efforts to address homelessness matrix presented to you today as the beginnings of a regional plan and a tool to help us focus and prioritize our efforts. We would like to continue the conversation and request that this document be adopted formally in the future. Help us make meaningful community progress through thoughtfully and purposefully choosing to focus, and let's all move in the same direction. Thank you for your time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Dana. That was great. I appreciate you pulling this together in such a short amount of time. You mentioned the website. Is it up in a framework yet, or are you waiting to launch that?
It is not up in a framework yet. It's being crafted. The skeleton is there, and we're really hoping to bring that to you in September with all of the information completed.
Fantastic. Okay. Questions, members? Member Dare, followed by Member Berkeley.
Yes, one, I just want to make sure, so I love that more and more people are getting involved. And for me, I can speak for me, I do understand that there's a lot of competing things happening in our world at this moment. So that's a very fair mark. And I think we just keep pushing, I call it pushing mud uphill. We just keep pushing things forward to the best we can, even though they fall back a little bit. But be encouraged, you know, I think we all believe this is a very good thing. I like that a lot of people have stepped up. How do people continue to get involved? They just email you if there's a group that says, hey, I'm watching this, or I heard about this and I want to be involved?
Yes, that would be the best way. Once that website is up, we'll have all the list of the members and people could reach out to anyone. But yes, we will include the individuals by committee and where they are participating. Many people are participating in different areas. So everyone will be able to go to that website, see that list, see the work, see where they may fit in, and reach out to the appropriate people. But for now, emailing myself is the best. Hetty and Monica at the City of Reno, or Jim Rendell and Sparks, we can all help you get to the right place.
And then the other question I have is, on this website, is there going to be, maybe it's in the matrix, I'm not sure. It is too small to read, and I'll study it more, I promise. But is there an area, like, let's say last week I had a elderly woman looking for a place to stay, is there any direction for us that we can help see the open doors of where to get help for individuals? Is that going to be part of this website, or is that something different?
So that would be something different, but I think centralizing as much information as we can is crucial. I think we all agree with that. So the idea of the website is that it'll really be a regional tool. The Built for Zero website will be just one small subset of this website. So I think that as we are pulling information together, that would be great to include that kind of thing. One of the things that we are focusing to include would be, what programs are out there and the criteria, the inventory that we're working on. Another aspect will be the outreach efforts, what outreach groups are out there and who do they help specifically. So, we also have talked a lot about on a little bit of a broader scale, but even like rental assistance and that kind of thing. There really isn't a centralized place for all of those resources where someone could go and see all the help that's available to them. And so I'm completely open. We can start to include that.
So my final question, Chair, if you don't mind, just is there potential that we could put that as one of the priorities as we work out all the details of a lot of things, even if we only have 5 details to go on that page, which I'm sure we have more, that would be an immediate tool that we all would help every one of us in the community immediately while we're working on everything else. And we would start seeing things move forward. So quest from me, and I don't know if everyone else agrees, but I think that would be a tool that whatever we have, if we could make that a page, and don't worry about it being exhaustive, just as it comes, just start doing it. And then we know where we can go. Because that's one of the problems I think we're having as a region is that. So that would be an ask for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Member Brookfield.
Yes. Sorry.
Thank you. Actually, I was going to ask the question about a centralized location that Christopher just brought up. So that was really my question, and thanks for that answer, Dana. I'm glad to hear that. I am curious, Dana, how much is work being pulled away related because of COVID related issues and the situation we're dealing with right now?
Sure. A lot of our conversations have been, there's always a balance, right? There's always another emergency coming up. There's another thing that gets piled on. And right now, we're all experiencing that where COVID is on top of all of our work. For a while, the world seemed to pause and COVID was that focus. But now, things are moving forward and people have their full-time job plus COVID. And now we're trying to add Built for Zero on top of that. The work of Built for Zero really doesn't have a core place where that work belongs. So we are trying to just piece it together in a lot of spare time. There's no dedicated resources to just say, go out and do an inventory. That's a lot of work that has to be done in the set amount of staff time that we already have. So, a lot of it is just balancing. And then, when conversations come up, to be very specific, things like, okay, well, we're dealing with COVID. We need to move the men out of the event center. That's a project. We want to look into safe camps. Is that a good idea? We need to investigate that project. They start to pile on, and it isn't that we don't want to do all the work or that it doesn't need to be done. You all appreciate this every day in your jobs. It's more of, if we can prioritize which one is the most important to address first, and we can pool our resources towards it and address it in a really efficient way together, then we'll wind up with a better product, and then we can move on to the next thing. But what's happening right now is, within our jurisdictions, we each have priorities that need to be addressed, but when we are all addressing those, then, Built for Zero is the easy one that gets left behind because it is regional and it is on top of everything, and it isn't a priority. It really, we have to move the men out of the event center. That is something that has to happen pretty soon. So we need to address that. Built for Zero is something that's really nice to have, but, if we have a choice, do we want to address COVID and make sure people have a bed that's efficiently socially distanced, to keep them safe? Or would we like to improve our system, which might help in the long term, right? Everybody can appreciate that that really isn't a choice. And so that's all we're asking is, while all of this is floating around us and we do have difficult choices to make, if we can carve out this little space to make sure that we continue to move forward, it does take time to clean up this data, but if we don't start it, then we're never going to get there.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. And again, I know all of our staffs are working well over time, and I certainly know the City of Reno staff has been dedicated in that emergency shelter for the men and deeply immersed in that for the last few weeks, and I appreciate their work on it and all of your work. You know, as the Washoe County as a social service provider, you know, we appreciate your guys' focus and attention as your priority on this as well. So thank you very much for that. Any other members have any questions or comments of Dana at this time? All right. Madam Clerk, did we have any? No, we didn't have any comment on it. Item 7, update on homeless shelter capacities and longer term solutions. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We have none received on this item, Madam Chair, and with that, we will transition over to Acting Assistant City Manager Arlo Stockham, and he will be able to present on his behalf.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, members. Hope you had a great weekend. I'm going to be presenting on the next 3 items. I have a slideshow that rolls through all 3, but we'll take a break between agenda items. So let me give a shot at sharing screen here. Can you see my screen now? Perfect.
Yep.
There we go. We should be in slideshow format. So these are really focusing on more immediate needs, intending to complement the Built for Zero efforts, not replace them at all, but really some time pressing issues related to our shelter capacities, the emergency shelter on 4th Street that was endorsed at your meeting 2 weeks ago. We have the final budget for that. And then a proposal for regional approach. This title's probably wrong, homeless issues. It's really focused more narrowly on sheltering and on ordinances and other provisions to keep our river corridor and parks as clean and safe as possible. So the first presentation here, focusing on our homeless shelter capacity. As you can see from the point in time data, the homeless population is in an increasing trend. We had a slight dip this year, but certainly expectations are that following COVID, it's unlikely to decrease the people in need of sheltering. Importantly, when you look at the chart from the latest year, almost 1,000 people are in need, either in emergency shelters or unsheltered. So that's quite a significant group of people. The bottom line is, even prior to COVID, our shelter capacities were insufficient to accommodate the demand. I mentioned the 973 people currently in need, probably increased even from this point in time count. All of the shelters combined accommodate maybe 600 in very distributed locations. We have our Record Street, the CAC, the family shelter at the CAC, the Washington Street overflow shelter, which the women are currently using, and that's going to be converted to a different use. We have our temporary overflow winter tent that was up for a period of time and has been removed, and some nonprofit shelters. These are all very distributed, inefficient to operate, and insufficient in size. The new shelters under construction are a great step forward. In particular, Our Place for women and families is mostly open and getting very close to completed. And then Hope Springs, the tiny home village, will certainly help as well. But the overall combination is, 1, we don't have enough spaces, and 2, it's so distributed that the operations are very inefficient. And we also have a lot of barriers to shelter use, the unmarried couples, pets, outdoor areas, all the things that all of you have heard from people are barriers to use of shelters. So the bottom line in terms of a near-term priority, one piece of the Built for Zero effort is expediting work on a larger shelter site. Very important, we do have COVID money from the CARES Act available to help. Our Place is secured for women and families. but we really don't have a large enough facility or site to accommodate the need for a no barrier shelter for men, couples, etc. Certainly space is needed for 600 or more people. Location is very important and always a difficult challenge to find appropriate property in an appropriate location. And this type of site, which we anticipate will require 7 acres or more of land area, would be sufficient in size for a variety of sheltering needs, whatever form they take, whether it's a traditional shelter, a safe camp type of arrangement, day use areas, and wraparound services. So the bottom line plan moving forward in the very near term is to increase focus on efforts to obtain a larger site for a shelter. We have recommendations for a process to go about expediting this work coming up on a future agenda item. But with that, I would like to pause and open it up to any questions or input on this agenda item related to the long-term need for a shelter and a larger shelter.
Thank you very much, Arlo. Since this is up on the screen, I can't see which members may have their hands raised. And again, to the public who may be watching this, public comment is submitted through the avenues that are acceptable and in advance. At this time, we are not taking live public comment. Hopefully in the future, we'll work the bugs out where we can do that, but for now, we are not taking live public.
Madam Chair, I can let you know that Councilmember Delgado has his hand raised at this time.
Okay. Councilmember Delgado.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The quick question, Harlow, on slide number 2, it shows a pretty dramatic hit in terms of transitional housing that's changed. What can you account that to? What would you say in terms of transitional housing? As usually that's some form of infrastructure or sorts. So,
my understanding is there were some changes in how various facilities were categorized, where it shifted from a smaller number in transitional housing and a larger number unsheltered. I think, Monica, if you'd like to jump in with more detail on what accounted for that shift.
Yes, what happened, can you hear me?
yes.
I can.
This is Monica Cochran for the record. What happened with the numbers is that we noticed last year people were categorized as but they should not have been. And so it was something that we needed to fix this year. So it skewed the numbers a little bit between sheltered and unsheltered. And it was about a 60-person difference. So we have that fixed going forward, so we won't see that discrepancy next year. It was just incorrectly done. I am not sure why. And then as far as the dip in the transitional housing, one of the larger programs, transitional housing programs this year, declined to submit their numbers, and they were changing from a transitional housing category to a different category. I don't remember what it's called, more community living, something like that. So that was a big dip in the transitional housing units. The units are still there, they're just a different category. So they're not reporting these with these numbers.
So they won't be categorized as transitional, maybe more longer term or permanent housing, or just?
It is, no, not necessarily. I think what they're calling it is community living. I think if there's anyone on from the county, they could probably answer it better. It was the Crossroads program, and they're categorizing themselves in a different manner. So we weren't able to get the numbers for this report to HUD.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's the end of my questions for now.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other members have any questions or comments about this at this time? I know this is a very sort of rough living document of what our sort of longer term goals are as they relate to emergency sheltering, with some expanded amenities to hopefully reduce some of those barriers that some don't enter the shelters for, and in recognition of, you know, the growing need for these accommodations, for sure. I can't see if anybody else has their hand raised. If you just want to speak up, I'll put you in the queue to ask questions. Okay.
With that, maybe I'll roll into the next agenda item.
Go for it.
Our interim emergency shelter. This was discussed in some detail at your meeting 2 weeks ago. It's largely been constructed. Just to summarize the overall short-term plan, we received notice to vacate the Reno Event Center, and that's nearly completed. We're planning to make the transition this Wednesday to the new sheltering arrangement. The new sheltering arrangement involves increased use at the CAC, essentially utilizing the entire building to the greatest extent feasible. And some of you have seen the day use area is reopened, expanded, and some shade has been installed. The second piece of it is the new short-term emergency shelter out on East 4th Street. This is where the meal services have been provided for a period of time now. That is nearing completion, and that will have a capacity. We actually think we're going to be able to exceed the 166 here and maybe get up to around 175, potentially 180. Then we have the Our Place Family Shelter and the Our Place Women's Shelter, which is going to be transitioning shortly here from the Washington Street site over to the Our Place campus. The bottom line is the plan maintains our existing sheltering capacity. By no means a long-term solution, but it is addressing our immediate short-term pressing need for shelter during this period of COVID. When this was discussed and endorsed 2 weeks ago, here's the 3 shelter sites: Our Place, the CAC, and the 4th Street site. When this was discussed 2 weeks ago, we did not have final budget numbers. We now have those. They are on screen. This presentation was distributed by Cynthia on Friday if you need to view it in a little more detail to read. The bottom line is the costs are pretty similar to our existing costs at the Reno Event Center. The projected expenses are estimated to increase over a 4-month period by approximately $259,000, so about $65,000 per month increase. However, that increase is also funding expanded services. In particular, the new shelters include daytime facilities, day use areas with shade, and also include 24-hour armed security to help secure the site out there. So those 2 additions alone actually exceed the increased expense, but it's really critical services to have day use area and also security to help provide areas for folks to go during the day that are safe and clean. So here is the budget in front of you. A lot of the new costs involve the lease for the shade structures and the installation of those. We're able to reduce costs through the ASM Global, which is the management company for the Reno Event Center. And we've also found some less expensive shower facilities, and we've hooked up to water and sewer, so we don't need self-contained shower. So it nets out pretty close, basically the added cost funding the additional services. And I'll wrap up there and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Arlo. And again, for the record, can you tell me, this is a sort of an emergency sheltering arrangement. How long do you anticipate this to last?
4 months. As we work diligently to a more appropriate longer-term site, we really hope to have decisions in about a 2-month period of time. So there's a little time for assembly and construction. and we can get out of here before winter. But these costs are 4 months, August, September, October, and November.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Member Burke-Wiggler.
Arlo, thank you for this information. This is really great. Do you have a thought in mind as to where the permanent site might go? The Governor's Bowl isn't big enough for, isn't not 6 acres, is it?
Yeah, the Governor's Bowl is sufficient in size. It's 8 or 9 acres. It's about that size of a site that is going to be needed long-term. So that's certainly one good option. A lot of work has gone into that. But not the only option. We want to explore Plan B and Plan C and hopefully have a final plan within a couple months here.
Isn't it true that something out of downtown but closer to town is going to provide more incentive to get people to stay at it?
Yes, the site is always very sensitive. In terms of our land use regulations, Reno has certain areas where homeless facilities are and are not allowed.
Right.
The East 4th Street Transit Corridor is certainly one. That also checks the box of being close to services and transit and reasonably centrally located. Facilities are also allowed in our industrial zone, but those tend to be more remote and less proximate to services.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Arlo. And again, thank you for all of your efforts. I know you've been working on this 24/7 for a few months and on the short term. And I know we have for a few years been working on the long term, and it's the where is always the question. And when you need that sort of land in order to accommodate all of the men, couples, animals, potential safe camps, and more centralized facilities, so staffing is more efficiently used and not scattered and duplicated in multiple sites, it becomes difficult. Finding that kind of property is a tough thing to do, and but we certainly remain open to any jurisdiction's options that they may have for this type of property and amenity to serve our community. Reno's open to anybody else stepping up. Any other members?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yes, Member Lawson.
I just have some questions as far as why the 4-month time frame? I mean, are we expecting COVID to go away in 4 months, or something I don't know? Arlo, I'm just curious as to why that number.
He's optimistic.
Our hope, no, I'm not under any illusion COVID's going to go away. This 4th Street site is really not ideal for a long-term shelter. It's pretty small. It's owned by Tumwa and designed for other purposes. Our hope and plan is to have a more suitable longer-term site identified in a couple months, and then have a couple months to develop that site and improve it. And that would be the 4 months. It's not a drop dead date that we have to be out, but if we're going to extend beyond November, we would need to put in some additional improvements like heat to stay in this location. And again, our hope is that we have a more suitable long-term site and can vacate this site within 4 months. We did enter a 4-month lease with the shelter company, so that's our minimum, but it's extendable if needed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And any other members have any questions or comments on this item at this time?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Member Delgado.
Thank you. Thanks for the information. Arlo, quick questions. Are the VOA providing programming at all these sites aside from, I think, our places by Rise? Is that correct?
Yes, between Rise and VOA, they're very distributed in their service provision. That's one of the efficiencies we're hoping to work towards if and when we have a single site. But yes, we've been working with VOA, Rise, and other providers for the various services associated with the sites.
Do we know how the coordinated effort is in terms of just general programming for everyone that are going to be staying at these sites? I mean, in terms of having internet access, job workforce kind of opportunities, applications. How is that all? That's more detailed, but I'm just thinking about if we're going to possibly be here for 4 months and we're trying to get people more long-term in terms of for getting those services. Has that all been, are people going to have access to all those different programming opportunities, whether it's at the CAC or our place, or is that a joint effort between RISE and BOA?
Yes and yes. They're not, the various service providers are not moving locations to this 4th Street site. So again, it's kind of distributed, services providing out of the locations they're in now. But in particular, the meals services and the site management, detailed coordination is ongoing for all of that to be available with the move-in date this Wednesday. And the various other services essentially are being provided from nearby locations, but not from this new 4th Street site.
And my last question is on the previous agenda item, you had said that the shelters are currently at capacity of 608. And on this one here on item 8, you're saying that our total capacity is 531. Is there the change in terms of the 70 people? I know we were over capacity. Is that why we're over capacity in terms of our locations now by 70 people for accommodations?
I apologize for that confusion. The prior presentation included some of the nonprofit shelters and non-government shelter facilities. This is strictly the government-run facilities, the Our Place facility, the CAC, and the East 4th Street site. And we, to date, had not reached capacity, although I just saw our numbers reported from last week showed that we did get to capacity at the Reno Event Center. So it's pretty close. We're fitting in as many beds with social distancing as we can. Effectively, we've built out every corner of this 4th Street site and can't really fit any more in with the property we have available. And similarly with the CAC building. So that's one more reason this is not a long-term arrangement, but it is a decent stopgap from use of the Reno Event Center until we have a longer-term site that's more suitable and larger.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see that now at the bottom. Thank you. Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Yes, Member Dare.
So you said this all happens on Wednesday?
The move is scheduled Wednesday, yes.
How does this work with the people living there now? Do they just know about it and they make their own way over there? Are we helping them get there so they know where they're supposed to go? Obviously we're in the middle of a, you would like people not to get lost on their way. I don't know the right questions, but it's the idea, are we helping them get there? What is going on with that?
Yeah, all of the above. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to advise all the users and prepare for this move. So extensive outreach, there will be assistance kind of setting it up and directing people and moving people. That's all being coordinated by Volunteers of America and the local government staffs.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes. Member Berkeley, wait just 1 second. I did have a question before I forget. So when we talk about these facilities, Arlo, the facilities at the 4th Street, this temporary 4th Street site, they will be open 24/7 with security? I was a little confused as to the usage, and then tell me again about the Governor's Bowl and the shade and the hours and usage there. And then finally, the food delivery service. I know we had asked last time if some of the volunteer groups were being worked into the Catholic services, food delivery. You can
Yes.
update.
Sorry, I probably should have gone into more detail on that. The plan on East 4th Street has areas for people to go 24 hours a day, but there's essentially 3 different areas. There are the shelters, the sleeping shelters, which would be evening only, and then cleaning would occur during the day. A half block away, there's the meal sites where 3 meals a day are delivered. And that area would be opened and closed for essentially during meal service, and the supervision would kind of move over there. And then for all of the remaining times, basically all the daytime hours, we're opening up the Governor's Bowl Park as a park use. Many of you know it's historically been a ball field. So that'll be available as a park during the day, and 2 shade structures. I'm not sure if they're up yet, but they are being or have been installed there, so there's good shade as well. So in combination, the 3 areas will have places to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And our team has coordinated in detail with VOA and the other, Catholic Charity and the other meal providers, and they're planning to bring the meals out and essentially continue that function, with basically half of the population being at the 4th Street site and the other half being at the CAC. So really we have, once this is finalized, we effectively have 2 men's shelters.
Okay.
The CAC and 4th Street, both areas have day use areas, and both areas have meal services and other support services.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to get the clarity on, was that we're going to go from, in essence, having multiple sort of scattered sites to 2 more centralized sites with restrooms and food service and shade, which has been an issue because, you know, even at the Reno Event Center, they only were sleeping there and then they were standing out in the heat, and it got very, very hot. So I'm glad to hear about the shade structures. And then also the ambassadors will help with the notification of the population staying at the Reno Event Center as to the new arrangement and the times and the amenities to help inform that population. So they're a great resource, and they've been tremendous through this pandemic in helping us. So we appreciate them. Member Burkberger, I apologize, I jumped in.
Thank you, no problem at all. Arlo, I think I heard you say that at the new permanent site, when we get to that, there will be camping allowed also. Did I misunderstand that, or are we going to have an area at the new site that allows people who really, for all intents and purposes, don't want to be in a tent and they'd rather be out camping? Are we going to allow that?
That, in my mind, is a decision to be made down the road once we have a site. The prerequisite to that is to have a suitable site, which we don't right now. But certainly our plan is to secure a site that's sufficient in size to accommodate a safe camp, should that be the direction the region collectively wants to go.
Okay, thank you.
And
Thank
one
you.
final.
If you've gone down 4th Street, if you see the tents really do, they consume every inch of that piece of property, which it needed to, because for everybody to space out. There's no additional real space on the Tumwa site for any additional amenities, but that is a goal in the long term. Member Dare.
Did you say that the VOA staffing this? Because I see
Yes.
6 on there, but I don't see any cost for staff or any of those things.
Yeah, the VOA costs, we got a new bid from them, and they're able to do the management without any cost increase compared to their current management situation. So that would continue to be funded. I think I have a little note here down right below the red line. That would continue to be funded at its current levels through the existing mechanism.
Thank you.
We were pleased that their cost did not increase. We were a little concerned that being distributed would, but they were able to make it work.
Thank you very much. Any other members before we move on? Okay, moving on.
All right, well, thank you. The last one is very straightforward, 1 slide. In discussions with this body and staffs of the local agencies, there appears to be a strong desire to expedite work on 2 specific topics, not to revisit Built for Zero, but to focus work on, number 1, a shelter site, and number 2, ordinances and other provisions to keep our river corridor and parks clean and safe. So along those lines, we've discussed with the other agencies, I believe everyone's in support of this. We are proposing a 9-member task force get established with a very focused scope of work and a short timeline focusing on securing a long-term shelter site and reviewing all of our collective ordinances and policies related to camping and other homeless issues, and potentially amending those ordinances in light of the Boise decision and the situation we're all in. So that's the simple recommendation. It would be a very high-level staff committee consisting of the city or county managers, the city attorney's district attorney, and the police chief or sheriff and their designees. The idea there is that these high-level officials would be more effective and efficient, bringing resources to bear, coordinating with the Built for Zero team, the elected officials, service providers, et cetera. And this committee may choose to retain consultants to help with these solutions, in particular the ordinance review. I think it's becoming clear to many people that we should do a clean look at our ordinances and maybe revisit what our ordinances say about camping and how they handle this situation. But fundamentally, we need a sufficiently sized shelter to be able to truly, enforce those types of regulations. So that's the recommendation, a 9-member community homelessness task force to complement and the Built for Zero effort, and focus on a very short time frame, making these improvements while we have CARES money available.
Thank you, Arlo. Any members have any questions or comments on this slide? Okay, this is good. This is something I know that we as a CHAB board had discussed previously. And so it'll be nice to see this kind of come together as a regional approach for these items. And certainly a goal, I think, of this board to do this all together and have it be more effective than doing it in silos. So I appreciate this. Thank you. Madam Clerk, did we have any public comment on this item?
Madam Chair, you do not.
And I don't see where to this point, any of these items are action items.
That is correct, Madam Chair. We do have, this item is for possible action on item 8 that Arlo just went over, and 9 is also possible action if the board so chooses. I'll defer to him if he's looking for a direct motion.
We would request action on this item, certainly if there's interest in action on the last item, but we don't need it. But we would request action to support this community homelessness task force to focus on sheltering and camping ordinances.
Thank you. I think this is a great effort.
I don't mind making.
Member Dare.
I'm happy to make that motion. I think that we've been talking about the importance of putting that together. So.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
In stereo. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Arlo.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was item 9, correct? We are on item 10. Do we have any board member announcements, reports, or updates? Okay, no, I don't see any here. The question I would ask, and maybe this is to those that are compiling the agenda materials and in recognition of the great work on the Built for Zero, if we could ensure that all of those members that have been added to that list, those 32, to ensure that they get the agenda and supportive materials and information about these meetings shared with them either via email and or tagged on social media, however we make sure to do that. And again, to push this out, this is a community effort for sure. So we want to make sure that gets done. Member Dare, did you have a question?
Okay, thank you. We got to go see Our Place the other day, and they're just doing a fantastic job. But I think one thing that's good for us and for the whole community who's listening to get updates from our place because of the new role that they have with that. When I say that, the RISE step. And then also VOA, we've not heard from them in a little while, and just kind of getting some updates, especially after this transition. So I think both of them, because they are our main people that we have in our region, and we've not heard from them just how that's going. I got to see one of them, but it would be good for everybody to kind of just get, I think, a feel for those things. Okay.
I think that's a great idea, hearing from those two operators on, what they're experiencing. I think that's but particularly during all this transitionary period that we've had, there's some great things that are opening this month with the women moving over to our place and the family shelter being fully operational, and probably getting an update on how the dorms are doing and the tiny homes as well. There's probably a really good idea to put on a future update from those individuals and organizations would be great as well. Any other board members have any future items? Member Lawson.
Also say, I went on this tour with Christopher last week, and I got to publicly say that I'm very impressed with what RISE has done over there. The attention to detail and knowing every member or person that's there being housed, knowing their names and being interested. So it was a completely different experience than what I expected. So I got to give them proper shout out for doing the right thing, and they're doing a wonderful job.
Any other members have any comments or questions at this time? Again, thank you all very much. I think our next meeting falls on Labor Day. So I think we're going to look for an alternate day, either the day after Labor Day, which is the 8th is what we're looking at, or the 14th. We're kind of toying with bumping it out a week or bumping it out a day. So I'm sure our people will be in touch with your people to see what we might be able to do there. Okay, with that, Madam Clerk, closing public comment.
Yes, Madam Chair, and just to reiterate to the board and the public process for public comment, people are welcome to submit their public comments to cityclerk@reno.gov. They can also submit them on our online public comment form. Additionally, we do have a voicemail set up in which if we receive any of those in advance, those will be played for the board. We did not receive any of those prior to 4 p.m. And as mentioned, anything received after 4 p.m. will go into general public comment, in which we received a letter from Iris Jewel Papard on behalf of One Truckee River, concerned with long-term solutions and impacts on the river. Jeff Church submitted an email regarding his concerns with costs of the shelter. And Jay Colbert Clausel, when he registered for the Zoom, submitted public comment requesting more agencies and community groups be included on the CHAB agenda. And Madam Chair, with that, those have been submitted to the commission and are part of the official record, and I have no further general closing public comment.
Again, thank you everybody for your time, and to the community for your attention and interest, and special final shout out to our staffs, the county and the city. I mean, Arlo, all of you, Monica, Dana, all of you have done a tremendous job. And again, 3 meetings in 1 month. I thank you for your efforts. They haven't gone unnoticed, so I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a month. Somebody move to adjourn. Thank you. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.